Well, I've been asked to put the question to the audience, how many people have been traveling here with Deutsche Bahn? Thank you for traveling with Deutsche Bahn. And this was his joke originally.
Okay. And how many were delayed? 1, 2,
okay.
3, 4.
Oh, that's not that bad, as we
Makes
see
sense.
it here.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. And we're talking about 20 minutes about the rail monitor. We do it in 2 parts. I'm more about how we made it and how it was produced. And
I'm talking about the journalistic stuff.
How you did it at Süddeutsche.de. Okay. The idea came up last year around this time. First to get the data out of the German railway corporation, Deutsche Bahn. And we first thought about to do a Freedom of Information Act request. And then we came up with the idea to scrape the website from Deutsche Bahn, because we are quite sure they don't want to give us this information. But before I talk about this, I show you the video how it's working. It's 1 minute 30 seconds, so you get an idea how this application, which kind of features it got and stuff. But it's not working with my remote yet. Now it does. Okay. We made an English version, I think 1 month after the German, because the Guardian was featuring it, and we had quite a few international requests about it. So from the German railway website, there's they give up the information at least in 5-minute steps how late trains are going to be. And so we have a software scraper who's going there every few minutes for every train which is on the tracks, and we get the information that, for example, it's 40 minutes late, and what's the reason for the delay. And you can explore this more or less in real time in this application, or can go back in time and play it if you want for half a year. I think we got it from October 2011, and you can filter the request for which train number, what kind of train type. Is it a fast overnight train, for example, or the ICE, which is the fastest train, and you can request it for which ranking for every train station. So that's basically how it works. And the scraper, the data we get from the website of Deutsche Bahn, looks more or less like this for every train we are scraping. We are only scraping the long distance trains, and that are about 1,000 a day. Because I think Deutsche Bahn has about 25,000 connections every day. If you have the local trains and S-Bahn, which are in the cities, the transportations. And the difference to the website of Deutsche Bahn is Deutsche Bahn only displays the next delay. They forget the delays before. So you can't do any research on the Deutsche Bahn website about the delays from the day before or even 1 hour ago. So we collect for every station the delay, and we have a huge data set now about maybe 300,000 connections, more or less, I think. It's not, in the beginning the scraper was quite bad. It was not really functioning very well with the website of Deutsche Bahn, because this is a monster, and looks a little bit like it has been started up before the World Wide Web in the 70s, and it's changing IDs and stuff. But if you're interested in this, you can talk to our coder about it. He's happy to talk to someone about it because he's quite traumatized. That's what we now have for every train, a long-distance train at least. And to get an idea what we have, what kind of data we've got, we first made some dives into the data. This is, I think it was from August last year. We had about 1 month of scraped data at this point of time. And what you see here is the causes of delays. So how long it in average you have to wait if, for example, it's bad weather. This is about, if this is the cause of your delay, it's 60 minutes roundabout. And so we get an idea what we can do, what we can tell with this data, because this is the second part of what we call data journalism. First you get data and you get more and more data, and then you get an idea what kind of stories are in there and how you can tell them. And then I call it, for me, it's like a process of writing an article, but we're not writing it with words, but with software. We're designing an application, we're designing an interface, and that's how we're telling the story. And when you write an article, for example, you have a story arc. You have an introduction, you tell your points, and then you have an end where you come to your conclusion, for example. You don't have this when you're designing a data journalism application, at least I think so. You have a beginning, that's when the people come to the website and have the first impression of your data journalism application, and the best thing would be they understand it without any explanation. They know what to do with this application. So it's a lot about how to design the interface, the user interface, and of course the usability, how people can interact with this. So, but as I said before, I think there are a lot of similarities to writing an article, a story, but you're not using letters to present it on the screen, but you use symbols, you use UI elements and stuff. And here you see how our designer who started to think about how to present this, how to design this map, what people can do to interact with the data, got ideas how people can interact. And I think the secret of a good application is to throw away at least 70 or 80% of the features you think an application should have. Because we had much more ideas what you can do with data. For example, here we said we can integrate a visualization how the delays are developing over time. And we had a kind of certain budget, and it means we had a certain kind of time, and you have to throw away things because you don't have the money to develop them, and many are very confusing for the end user at least. Because if you're deep into the development of an application, you're very into the subject and you know everything and every secret of your application, know how to use it. But the best is to take somebody who've never seen it before, sit him or her before the computer and let him or her use it, and just write on a piece of paper what he or she is saying about it. And you mostly learn they don't understand a lot of things, not in this way you thought they should. In the end, we came up with this, more or less with this design, which was in the end implemented. We had a lot of problems because of Süddeutsche wanted to have it in HTML5, which means we are not...
Because of the iPad.
Because of the bad iPad. And that means problems with Internet Explorer 2, which many people are still using, because up to Internet Explorer 9, it's a problem about JavaScript.
Actually, it didn't work at Süddeutsche Zeitung in many workplaces.
Yeah.
Because they're still using IE7.
Okay. So I'm happy in 2 years or so there will be no Internet Explorer 8 or 7 anymore, I hope. And then it's much more easier to develop cross-browser applications and cross-platform mobile and stuff. Mobile means you have to think about touch interfaces too. It must work on a desktop PC or on a touch using touch. So it means, for example, don't make the buttons too small. Can you use the swipe gestures and stuff? Okay, that was the design in the end. Then we had a prototype for quite some time, which looked, I think, until 3 days before we launched, it looked like this. And then we had reworked the map completely. But it was, when we had this, I think we had it in winter, we saw it the first time, this small and like little ants crawling over the map. It was a kind of huge moment for us, because we first saw now how the application came together and how we can tell the story about it, because now I think we're seeing now about 200 or 250 trains at once on this map, and you get an idea of the logistics of Deutsche Bahn, what they are doing every day, and it's quite impressive, I think. They want a lot of money for this, but they're doing quite a good job. And in the end we came to this kind of application, which now runs for, I think, six weeks, and eight. And maybe the last technical thing about it, or what is important, what has been important for us, was we knew when we launched this application that a lot of people will come at once. That means we need a system which can deliver the data to display on the screen of every user, had to be delivered very fast. I mean, you have to optimize the data, you have to reduce it, and we were able to present now the data you can more or less, without any hesitation, you can just scroll through this time. And so these are things I think journalists haven't to, or it's about the experience, how to interact with data, how fast you can deliver the data to the user. Before that it was text or maybe a photograph or then video, and now you have to deliver data as a part of journalism. And that, I think, for me, that's the really interesting thing, and where's the fun in this, to do software development as a kind of journalism. So I give over now to Stefan, who gives us an idea about the process at your paper.
Yeah. Well, why did we do this? Well, we're Germany's biggest broadsheet newspaper, and well, we're not actually in the software programming business, so we were quite happy when in July 2011 we met at Netzwerk Recherche Jahreskonferenz in Hamburg. Well, I was always interested in the stuff Lorenz was doing and his team was doing, and we were just chatting what we could do together. And you brought up the idea of there's this thing with train delays, and everybody's interested in train delays in Germany, and why don't we scrape Deutsche Bahn website? And well, my very own personal fetish is logistics and trains and cars, motorways, and so I'm really interested in this, and as a person, not as a journalist. And well, there were two things combined in this moment, and I said to Lorenz, well, why not try this thing out? And it took about 9 months from then on.
Yeah, just to give you, of course, the idea to visualize train data live or in the web is not new. Something like Swiss trains, for example, was an inspiration for us. We had Stiftung Warentest, which is a consumer, magazine foundation who's testing stuff. They made a feature last year in spring. We learned afterwards they did the same thing. I think they scraped the website for 1 month or so, about, and but did a more or less classical print product article about it with visualizations like this. And then in last autumn, a single guy in Germany started Zugfinder, which is about basically doing the same thing as Train Monitor.
Yeah, and when I saw this, I was getting the idea that there could be a story in it. And well, I like data journalism, but I always think there's got to be a story in it. And now you see how many pieces we did with the data that you guys scraped for us. It was about 2 dozen stories we could extract out of this data that's never been mined before. Well, there's some interesting things like the high-speed train network in Germany is the part of the network which has the most significant delays. Deutsche Bahn knew that, but nobody else knew that. We could scrape. Okay. We could actually there was it. You saw the red lines. This is Germany's high-speed railway system, and we looked at the data, and it was quite complicated to look at the data in this way. But we got out. Okay, this is the single most delayed train connection in Germany here. This is between all the big cities. This is a good story, actually. We knew what to write. But this came after, well, half a year after you really started, after your scraper really worked. So this was not that common for us to say, okay, we are going to invest a lot of money in you guys, and you're going to do the scraping, and we don't know which story will come out. We didn't know till March of this year what story would come out. You started scraping in October. In March, we began diving into the data in a really very statistical way, and I had to think about all the things I learned at university about statistics, and when are things significant, and how many connections have to be counted till something gets significant data, and so on. And in the end, we had some very good stories. Well, there's been the highway, the high-speed train links are a problem. We got the story that Deutsche Bahn isn't telling its customers the full truth about delays. We found some very serious bugs in the data. Like Deutsche Bahn says it's when the train is late 7 minutes, they say it's 5 minutes, because they want people to arrive at the train station in time, so they don't have to wait, and things like that. Never heard that before. These were some clues we got out of the data, and our readers really appreciated that. And we tried to get the print edition of that day in March, where we published all that. We made all 2 pages, broadsheet panorama, in the paper with 4 big pieces about what we found out. It was also very good cooperation between the online department, I'm the head of the online department, and the newspaper. It isn't very common in Germany these days. Well, it was really a good cooperation because our print Deutsche Bahn's expert confronted Deutsche Bahn with the findings we made. And we made actually some very good stories out of it. Yeah, and we did publish the data. This is Google Fusion tables. You see, everybody has access to this data we were working with, and can do some sorting himself. We made an API, not we did, you did, publish all the data as an API, and now we are experiencing that it doesn't stop with our stories and our coverage of this thing, but some people out there are working with the API and doing an iPhone and Android app. Some other guys did. One guy is trying to make a prognosis of how late is this train gonna be, based on what we got here, and they are all reading this stuff that is in the API, which is quite complicated. For us, the interesting thing was that we really learned about a lot about data journalism. We didn't do that before. We were quite happy to have you on board, as we wouldn't have been able to do that alone. It's really a big newspaper trying to get things right in the digital age, and it's the first project. Of course, now we are planning a second one and a third one, and we're trying to do it alone, because I think as a newspaper we have to be able to do these things alone and to have all the knowledge. in our house. For me as editor-in-chief, it's one of the best things of this is that everybody at Süddeutsche now really understands that there is stories in data mining and data journalism, and you can get ahead of the market by doing such stories, and not only classical stories. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say something about the open data aspect on this. I wrote there that this is semi-open data because I think for us it was the first time, and I think not many people did this before, a kind of real-time data journalism. That means we're providing now the data we are scraping more or less in real time to other people using the API, the application programming interface. And we are not allowed because we are scraping the data from the Bahn, Deutsche Bahn website, which I think it's a public body. It's owned by the people in Germany, so they are obliged to do it themselves. They don't do it. So we did that for them, but we have not the rights to say you can reuse it for commercial purpose. I think that would be problematic. So we said you can reuse it, but only for kind of research, for testing, and not to sell, for example, a mobile application. But what we are hoping is that we give inspiration to Deutsche Bahn to open up their or to provide an own API, because we think it's a huge opportunity for them to be transparent, and I think we would see great services built on this API. And as you told before, the one application, for example, they give a prediction about what your delay would be probably. We have half a year of delay. So we can say, if you're traveling on Friday afternoon, you're probably going to be late 7 minutes on this particular train. So, and a lot of, we had more ideas. I said before, we killed a lot of features to make it not too complicated. Yeah.
I think we got signals that we shouldn't delay the program ourselves.
Okay. So thank you for listening and traveling with us. And maybe we have time for 2 questions if somebody interested to put some.
Oh.
And so much.
Ein Moment.
Die anderen brauchen 10 Minuten.
Mikro kommt.
Die brauchen weniger Zeit, die anderen.
Wo die Frage?
Die anderen brauchen weniger Zeit.
Thank you for presenting this very interesting project. My name is Marian. I want to know what your agenda with this tool is now that you are running this on the URL. Are you just waiting what happens, or do you have any?
This is also interesting for a newspaper, that you're programming a tool, or let the guys program a tool, and you have to maintain it. Yeah, we are planning to maintain it, and perhaps if Deutsche Bahn is rethinking its policy concerning giving data to the public, we would adapt the tool or something like that. You've constantly developed this. That's the point, and we got no real budget for that, but that's another subject.
What kind of feedback did you get from Deutsche Bahn?
Well, we asked them before we published the articles what they could tell us about what we found out, and well, they answered the questions. That's all. There was no problem at all. No problem at all. The only contact to the Bahn was before the publication of the article, and after the Stiftung Warentesting, I think they got it that there are guys doing the scraping, and well, I think as they're following a transparency policy as a company, it wouldn't have fit in their strategy to sue us or something like that. They didn't do that, and they didn't react badly. So we didn't expect it. It was kind of an experiment.
Did you release the scraper?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
Are you interested in it?
I'd be interested because the software that Deutsche Bahn runs worldwide, pretty much, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I guess a bunch of people would be interested in that scraper.
You'd like to hack all of them.
It's a quick win.
Scraping the half-us, but the
There's-
Moment.
just one last.
Hi, sorry, I'm quite heiser. So, what feedback did you get from your print colleagues regarding
they were
the
amazed.
return on invest?
No, the return on investment wasn't the thing. Print colleagues don't think about that. No, they were quite amazed because Süddeutsche Zeitung never did anything like that. And they were getting what digital journalism could be in the end. This is something everybody got to know in our big tower in the east of Munich. They looked at it, it's fun playing around with this thing. There's a panorama page in the paper. So really everybody got something out of it. And they got the clue that there could be more than text and video and all that. So, sorry.
Yeah. Wait, before, yeah, okay.
Okay, no, I'm going to do it like this.
Yeah. Did you ask first for the data?
No, not really.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Easier to ask for forgiveness, okay. Yeah, and I'm going to take over here, or, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Hi, I'm Pieter Colpaert from Belgium. And I see a lot of similarities between the German issues and the Belgian issues. We also have a railway company, and they're also not that polite towards open data and stuff like that. Thanks. So we started IREL. IREL is a not-for-profit organization. Why is my slides not? Okay. So IREL is a not-for-profit organization that focuses on transport data in Belgium. So who am I? I started recently, like 2 months ago, started the Open Knowledge Foundation Belgium. We're trying to stimulate open data this year. I have a startup. I'm not going to make publicity here, but we're the best real-time digital signage company in the world. So if you want to buy screens, come to me and I'll sell you everything. And everything that we do right now starts with our first NPO that started 2 years ago, and it's called IREL. What happened? Well, in 2008, we had a mobile website, just a simple scraper, just like the German guys from Zugmonitor. And yeah, we send a letter, a nice letter to the SNCB or the NMBS, the National Railway Company of Belgium, stating that we just did this, it's easy to access on iPhone, and it's something they lack because there was no such thing as a mobile website or, let's say, an app or of some kind. And then 2 years later, we got an answer on this letter. The letter was from the biggest lawyer company in Belgium, stating that we had immediately to stop with everything that we were doing. We had like a site with 30 visitors a day, which easily accessed, made it possible to access the railway data on your mobile phone. And yeah, we just published this cease and desist letter online. And this is what happened. Both the Dutch people and the French people in Belgium published about this in the biggest newspapers that IREL has to stop. So let's give some context, because Belgium, yeah, we're like these neighbors from there somewhere, but we're pretty much divided. With the buses, we have Flanders, we have Brussels, and we have Wallonie, and each of these 3 regions have their own company. Clear? This is simple, I think. And for the railway company, it's even simpler. We just have one railway company. This was a problem oh, wait. Yeah. It's all these different organizations have to listen to different governments. We are maybe a little country, but we have 6 governments. There was a time that we didn't have a government, or they told people that in foreign countries, but this wasn't true. We still had too much governments. So these 4 companies listen to different governments, and each time you want to make the open data statement, you will have to go to different governments. So we went to the Flemish government, and now at this point they are already publishing or have a statement for open data inside their stuff. The Brussels government has already published open data now. The Walloon government don't even bother. The federal government is also working towards open data right now. But we also have some pressure from Europe. And in 2005, we had to split the Belgian railway company because we only had one. This was a good point, I thought, because we only had one organization to go to see, to have a meeting, and then to convince to do open data. But now we have the railway maintainer called Infrabel. Then we have the organization that works with the trains, that drives the trains. This is a European decision. Everyone in Europe should do this. And then we have a third company, the holding, and these are talking to both of these, or should be talking to both of these companies and with the government. So these are the 3 CEOs of these 3 companies, and we talk to all of these 3 companies. This takes a lot of time, and we talk to these guys, and they say, open data, this is awesome. Yeah, let's do this, because then we have better sales. The second one says, okay, let's do brainstorm sessions, and we've been doing digital creativity in brainstorm sessions. The problem, these guys don't have data. But they like open data. And that guy over there, that's looking like this, he says that all the data is from him, and no one should even bother asking for data, not even this guy. This is the big boss. He doesn't receive data from that guy. So it's not a problem of open data, it's even a problem of internal structure. IREL. We started an organization, a living lab, and that's a cool word just for something that takes frustration from people, uses the not-for-profit organization, puts it into ideas, and maybe projects come out. These projects can fail. We had some projects that were really bad, and people put some time in it, but yeah, whatever, these failed, and these went back to frustration. Then we had some good projects, which actually some spin-offs were created from that. So after 4 years of frustration, we're still online. This is a big point, because we had a lot of lawyers asking for explanation, and a lot of politicians which asked for explanation, and these were all in my re-examinations. I'm not the best student, or I wasn't the best student in the world, so I had a lot of re-examinations, and I was doing these projects, and I got sued, and yeah, other stuff happened, and I had to talk to politicians, to these companies, and conclusion, I did some extra years. At this moment, we have 30 active volunteers. We have 12 maintained data sets on data.irel.be, which is a RESTful API which publishes dynamic data. And we have 4 spin-off projects. So the goal of the NPO, of the not-for-profit organization right now, is organizing events, doing community building, and we have some events like that, like IREL Summer of Code, which you can, which gathers students to work on these 12 data sets that we were talking about. These 12 data sets are about buses, are about trains, and so on. We're maintaining and financing the data.irel.be RESTful API. We're incubating startups. Flat Turtle, this is the company I was talking about before. that does digital signage. This uses data from inside the IRL NPO. First site is a dating site. It's a dating site for train users. So you can go to you're on a train in Brussels. You see a pretty lady or a handsome guy, and when you get off, and you've been talking or not, when you get off, you just take your laptop. You say, I will go to first site. Oh, I saw a beautiful lady or a handsome guy with a brown jacket with a red scarf, and maybe you'll get back in touch after a while. OpenData is now a startup which gathers data, open data or closed data, inside a RESTful API for third parties. Gendata is a game. Gendata is a game in which you have to conquer districts from a city by just doing Foursquare check-ins. And now we're taking this project to the next level by adding mobile or transport information to it. And last but not least, we're a copyright management for free, libre, and open source software. And we have a lot of volunteer projects. We are all doing this open source, and you can go to github.com/IRL, and you will see all the software projects. So that was the IRL NPO. Thanks. Are there any questions?
Meanwhile, I learned that Heiser means husky in English. Is that right? I'm still Heiser. In addition to your great entertaining presentation, there was a similar case in Berlin. Some app developer developed an app for the Berlin. Yeah, Berlin, Fahrinfo Berlin, it is called, that app, and he got problems with the Berlin Public Transfer Authority as well. They forbid him to scrape the data, and yeah, it was quite funny because they were so stupid to forbid an initiative like that. Maybe it's interesting because it's so similar.
Yeah, indeed, we work together also with other people who do open data, open transport data, being non-official people. Like in the Netherlands, you also have something similar, like OpenOV, and that's one guy who just opened up the entire country. This is amazing, and yeah, you also have a lot of different projects. Yeah. Thanks. Another question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, und jetzt zum Abschluss, Stefan Wehrmeier erzählt uns über Global Public Transport Data. Dankeschön.
Yeah, after we've seen now two case studies, one for Germany, Deutsche Bahn, and one for Belgium, I'm just going to give you a broad overview of what kind of public transport data is available in the whole world. Because there are more places that have public transport, and if there's one company that is supposed to get all the data, of course it's Google. And I don't know, most Germans don't know that probably, but if you go to Google Maps in some country that supports Google Transit properly, you can not only see like public transport lines on the map, but you can also do routing. Like in Germany, you can do routing from A to B with a car, and you can walk. But in New York and many other places in the world, actually these places, you can also use public transport routing on Google Maps, directly on the map. Perfect. Because why is that? They get the data from the public transport providers. And the first step to do that was actually to define a format, the General Transit Feed Specification. It used to be Google Transit Feed Specification, but they changed that to be more general, I guess. And now this is a format that encompasses the locations of stops, when a bus is coming, where is it going, and all the times in between. And so public transport providers can create this data set in this format, give it to Google, and then the users can use it on Google Maps in the area of the public transport provider. A really neat idea, and it works in many places. These places, perfect. But it doesn't work in Germany. Well, why is that? Because, well, Germans, we don't like Google. somehow. I mean, we don't like Street View, we don't like to give them data, and this is exactly the same problem here. The problem also is that if Google gets the data, they actually make a contract with a public transport provider about this data, and the data is not necessarily available for all. There's a site called GTFS Data Exchange, GTFS, General Transit Feed Specification, and this site collects all data sets in this format that is publicly available. So if you're a developer, check this site out, gtfsdataexchange.com, and there you can download massive amounts of public transport data, unfortunately not from Germany, because we don't like it. We don't like open data in the public transport sector, unfortunately. Many other places like it. So we have seen here, the US is full of it. Basically every major city publishes data about public transport, and in Germany we are lucky if we get like the routes on Google Maps, but the data is not available there. So how do I come to this, to this realization that there's so much data? Well, in 2009 I saw Maphumental. It's a project in the UK where you can say, okay, this is basically my postcode, and how much time does it take me from which area to get to the central location? For example, if you want to arrive at the center of this dot at 9 in the morning, you can like travel from around all the highlighted area. A really nice project, and it doesn't only work for London, as seen here, but also for the whole UK. So what I actually had just the brilliant idea as I saw the Zugmonitor. I want to take this data and try to make something like, okay, I'm in Berlin, and where can I go in like 5 hours? Can I reach Dresden? Yes, of course. But can I reach also Hamburg? Yes, of course. But can I reach Düsseldorf? Maybe. So that you can see, okay, I have a slider, and now from this position in whole Germany, that's the next thing I think I'm going to try out. The problem is the data is not available. Maybe the data is available in the API that the Süddeutsche people talked about. But what I did is I scraped the data for Berlin, and if I had a network here, I would actually show you how it works. But it's called Magnificent, and you can like put your dot in the middle of Berlin and move it around, and it shows you how much time it takes to get around Berlin with public transport. You have a slider in the lower right corner where you can say, okay, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then it shows you immediately how far you can go in that time. So what is that useful for? Well, I did it not only for Berlin, but also for San Francisco, Washington, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, and basically lots of other cities. And why? I just need to, because it's cool. Yeah? I just wrote one program, and the data is available, and I just need to put more data into the program, and it just works. So this is like the power of open data and of open specifications, that you just have to write the application once and run it with data from anywhere. And yeah, I'm really happy that it works so far. But as you can see, the US is overrepresented, and Europe is, we have something in London, some parts of Spain, France, even Italy, and but Germany, the Berlin, the dot I scraped myself. There's no open data for that. Anyways, so what you can do with that? I made a printed map. I actually thought about like printing nice maps. You can just hang it in your home and see, okay, I have to go to, for example, Charlottenburg. How much time would it take me? And then I can see, oh, the color is green. Okay, that might mean 20 minutes or something. And yeah, I actually want to sell these maps, but I can't sell them for Berlin because the data I scraped, or this data is actually not scraped, but under some weird contract from the BVG. And yeah, I can't sell it. It's really a problem for me. And I'm also thought about here. This is also a nice project. I actually wanted to show a demo there too. Can't do it now. This is from the Netherlands. They have like one this train company for everything, and also one ticket. And here, this is a nice visualization that shows them how far can you also go, but it doesn't. It shows you by deforming the Netherlands actually. So the Netherlands is actually not that shape. I hope you see that, but it's actually transformed to form a circle so that you can see each circle represents, I don't know, 20 minutes or something, and it grows, and you can see see immediately how far you can go. I actually did the same thing for Berlin. Unfortunately, it doesn't morph the shape of Berlin, but you can see, you can click on stations and it shows you on a radial scale, basically, how fast you can get to other stations. So for example, if you click on something like Griebnitzsee or Potsdam, everything moves far out because it's far away. But if you click on Friedrichstraße, everything moves closer to the center because from Friedrichstraße you can get anywhere really fast. So it's also nice for mobility planning. This is a project I'm actually currently doing for Brandenburg, for a planning company there. And they have like the youth in Brandenburg is really in a bad place because everybody's moving away from Brandenburg to Berlin probably. And the mobility situations, they're really bad. So this is basically the situation. If you're at 7 p.m. 7 in the evening, and you want to get from Pritzwalk somewhere else, all the red parts are stations you could usually get to, but at 7 p.m. 7 in the evening, you can only get like two other stations basically in this image. There are some more down there, but so you can have a nice visualization that the youth in Brandenburg has a really bad mobility planning, and it needs to be something to be done about that. So lobby work with these images is like makes it easier to understand how bad the situation is or how good the situation is. I'm thinking about doing a startup that actually uses the public transport data to bring that to more fields, because public transport data is actually not only for going from A to B, but also can be used in many other contexts. For example, apartment search. Where can I live so that I only need 20 minutes to work and 30 minutes to my girlfriend? So, this is actually a really complex query, but it can be done with public transport data. And it can show me the apartments that are available in this area, because it's not because it's like 3 kilometers away, but it's maybe just 5 minutes away. So time is really more important in this context, and public transport data can convey that. Yeah, so my general theme here is there are lots of undiscovered possibilities. I hope I've shown you some things you haven't seen before. And the best app is the one that someone else builds with data someone else has opened. And I hope we see more open data, especially in Germany. Just 2 days ago, I was at an event from the Green Party, and the BVG and the VBB were also there, but they weren't so happy about public open transport data. And maybe it will get better at some point, but there's still lots of lobby work in Berlin and in Germany that we have to do for that. But I'm still very hopeful that we see some good progress there in the future. All right, thank you.